The New York Yankees put out a touching tribute on Twitter saying that they were deeply saddened by the death of Henry Kissinger. When fans questioned the post, the storied baseball team was quick to note that they don't endorse everything Kissinger did, just the killing of Cambodian civilians. On the other hand, the Philadelphia Flyers have released this statement. For those listening at home, yes, it's gritty, digging Kissinger's grave. Let's get into it. What a week. In a recent interview, Mike Pence admitted he was encouraged by his son to stand up to President Trump regarding the January 6th insurrection. According to Pence, his son, a former Marine, said, "Dad, you took the same oath I took, an oath to support and defend the Constitution." Continued Pence, "My son also showed me that you could actually use a urinal without pulling your pants all the way down." A little too city slicker for me, but it's interesting. I think it is nice to have your military son be your moral compass and not the fisheye camera at the Target self-checkout like the rest of us childless freaks. ABC News reported this week that Pence nearly recused himself from presiding over the counting of the electoral votes on January 6th because he thought it would have been, in his words, too hurtful to my friend. There's nothing more awkward than when somebody wrongly thinks a coworker is their friend. He's friendly at the office because you work together, and he thinks it's weird that you call him on Christmas. I was just texting my good friend producer Brian about this on his day off. Remember, buddy? Brian, why are you looking away? Brian, it's me, Lovett. You know me, huh? Still up for laser tag on Sunday? Henry Kissinger who shaped foreign policy as Secretary of State and National Security Advisor under Nixon and Ford, died on Wednesday at the age of 100. Now to take a big sip of Arizona iced tea and Google what the U.S. was up to between 1969 and 1977. Kissinger remained a force in American politics for half a century, advising 12 presidents in some capacity, and credited with diplomatic successes like the opening of China, as well as war crimes and civilian atrocities from Cambodia to Indonesia to Matt Rife's face work. That looks like realpolitik to me. George W. Bush issued a statement on Wednesday in remembrance of Kissinger, saying in part, "I am grateful for that service and advice, but I am most grateful for his friendship. Laura and I will miss his wisdom, his charm, and his humor." And then after that, it looks like someone was frantically banging on the keyboard as if they were choking to death on a pretzel. Wise words, Mr. President. Remember that? Remember that fucking Earth 2 where Bush dies because he ate a pretzel with his O'Douls? Said Biden's national security spokesperson, "It's a huge loss. Whether you saw eye to eye with him on every issue, there's no question that he shaped foreign policy decisions for decades, and he certainly had an impact on America's role in the world. Whether you saw eye to eye with him on every issue, there's no question that Jeffrey Dahmer shaped gay culture in the Midwest." Was it good when that truck crashed through the front window of an elementary school? I'll just say this, no one can deny that it made a big hole. In his statement, Vladimir Putin credited Kissinger with strengthening global security, saying, "I had the opportunity to personally communicate with this deep, extraordinary man many times, and I will undoubtedly retain the fondest memory of him. If Putin's sad you died, you've made a mistake. If Putin poisoned you, you've done something cool. Most of us are somewhere in the middle." The New York Yankees put out a touching tribute on Twitter saying that they were deeply saddened by the death of Henry Kissinger. When fans questioned the post, the storied baseball team was quick to note that they don't endorse everything Kissinger did, just the killing of Cambodian civilians. On the other hand, the Philadelphia Flyers have released this statement. For those listening at home, yes, it's gritty. Digging Kissinger's grave. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. I like it. Hey, Zuri, great job. In a letter from his lawyer, Hunter Biden said he would testify in House Republicans' investigation, but only if the testimony could be made public, and several Republicans agreed. Josh Hawley told the press this.
My view is that the American people have a right to see, and also, they should evaluate this for themselves. I mean, if you do this stuff in private, what happens is there's inevitably bunches of leaks, and then it's well, so-and-so said this and so-and-so said that. And it's like, oh, just do it in public and let the public see. Open the doors so y'all can report on it.
The man has already had his nudes flashed on the floor of the House. At this point, he should be able to get questions streaming on OnlyFans and at least make a little money off of it. And he used the money to buy guns. Tennessee Republican Tim Burchett said he'd also support a public hearing when he said, I don't care if he wants to sit in the bathtub and do it. At least that's what we think Burchett said. His mouth was watering so much it was hard to understand him. Ted Cruz introduced a bill to ban federal funding from being used to implement policies that require federal employees to use preferred pronouns and names for their colleagues, saying that forcing anyone to use pronouns that don't accord with a person's biological sex is an unconstitutional violation of the First Amendment. Of course, that doesn't really make any sense. There are all kinds of things you can't say at work. You can say I'm at home. You can say them to a dominatrix wearing a Miss Piggy mask, ripping out pages from your book and telling you that you've been a bad, bad senator. But if someone at work says, hi, my name is Becky, and you say, no, it isn't Rebecca, and then Becky says, hey, listen, I know you didn't mean anything by it, but I don't use my full name at work. It's something my mother called me, and she passed away. And then you say, fuck you, Rebecca. That's what it says on your birth certificate. Send me that spreadsheet, Rebecca. First Amendment, Rebecca. That's, of course, rude. It's obnoxious. It's unprofessional. And if you kept at it, you get fired. It's also rude and obnoxious and unprofessional if the name you choose to use against a person's wishes is of a different gender. And that person has made clear that hearing that name is like a punch in the gut because that person has rights at work too. And the ideological valence of that cruelty may be important to a subset of insecure freaks obsessed with making trans people cry in the bathroom, but it's beside the point. Your First Amendment right to express your bigoted nonsense because your masculinity is both very important to you and hanging by a fucking thread remains. You're not being arrested. You're just facing the reality of being a person in society with more than one person in it. Raphael Edward Incest Porn Cruz. The co-founder of the North Carolina-based group Students for Trump was charged this week for assault with a deadly weapon after his girlfriend reported that he struck her with a gun in the forehead. Chilling to imagine how dangerous the Trump youth will become when they realize that that's not how guns work. In response to the current advertiser boycott of Twitter, Elon Musk lashed out while speaking at a summit, telling off potential sponsors, including Disney's Bob Iger.
Don't advertise.
You don't want them to advertise?
No.
What do you mean?
If somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, go fuck yourself.
But
Go fuck yourself. Is that clear?
I dare you not to go into business with me, a guy on ketamine dressed like a Los Angeles club promoter in 2003. Yes, fuck the advertisers. Oh, good, great, said Twitter CEO Linda Yaccarino from within the steamer trunk where they keep her between crises. Oh, good, great, said Twitter CEO Linda Yaccarino, halfway submerged in cartoon quicksand. Oh, good, great, said Twitter CEO Linda Yaccarino, placing several more rocks in her pockets. Oh, good, great, said Twitter CEO Linda Yaccarino, putting yet another meeting with the Twitter sales team in the slot she was holding for therapy. In another moment, This is my favorite. This is the best thing that I've seen in a long time. Somebody before the show asked me what I thought the best news of the week was. He assumed it would be Henry Kissinger's death, and sure. But I actually think this, to answer your question this far back, where were you? I saw you. There you are. This was my favorite moment of the news of the week. Andrew R. Sorkin is interviewing Elon Musk, and this is the moment.
I will certainly not pander. And Jonathan, like, the only reason I'm here is because you are a friend. Like, what was my speaking fee?
You're not making any. First
Exactly.
of all, I'm Andrew, but
Yeah, sorry.
it's okay.
Like, to live in a world where that was an unscripted moment, like, that's unfucking beatable. That's unbeatable. You can't, that is so good. I'm only here because you're a friend, Jonathan. My name is Andrew. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 writing. That is A fucking plus. Look at this image. Look at this fucking hell of a time we live in. Look at it. Look at what this fucking guy that controls satellites and the biggest electric car company and one of the world's biggest social media platforms is wearing to work. He's like, what do you get at the fucking Universal gift shop? The fuck is that? Why is he wearing a flight jacket? What's the necklace? Oh my God. The problem is, just to talk about it for a second, I was thinking about this, which is like, why is this the world we're living in? Why does this happen? And it's like, this is a Times summit of some kind, and Kamala Harris was at this event. And it's like, there shouldn't be a right-wing troll being interviewed on this thing. This guy doesn't have much to offer. I watched a fair amount of it, and he doesn't have much to offer. But he gets to be there because he's both one of the most powerful and successful people in our society and one of the dumbest motherfuckers alive. And we keep trying to get this Venn diagram to overlap. Maybe they don't. Maybe people can be two things. On Tuesday, a Virgin Atlantic Boeing 787 executed a successful test flight from London to New York using jet fuel made from fat and sugar. It's unclear whether this jet fuel melts steel beams, but it melts beautifully over a stack of pancakes. An Indiana man who was detained and booked was discovered. Are you from Indiana? Is that why you're applauding? Okay. Well, let me tell you about the kind of people from Indiana I've been thinking about lately. By the way, if I start a joke with a blank man from a state and you're from that state and you cheer, an Indiana man was discovered to be smuggling a handgun in his rectum during a strip search. Nature's holster. I've heard of packing heat, but this is ridiculous. The man was charged with 1 count of carrying a silent but deadly weapon. The suspect is claiming protection under the Bill of Rights. When asked which amendment, he replied, "Number 2. Sophisticated political show. Speaking of surprise, all right. Speaking of surprises involving number 2, in Ohio, this, by the way, revised. Kissinger's death, Elon saying, "You're my best friend, Jonathan." This is number 1. An Ohio criminal defense attorney, and this is a true story, has been suspended by the state Supreme Court for pooping in a Pringles can and throwing it into the parking lot of a crime victim nonprofit. Someone saw him throw the can. They then opened the can and were horrified. I don't want to blame the victim here, but why on earth would you open that Pringles can? What possible good could you find inside of a Pringles can thrown out the window of a passing car into a parking lot? The absolute best case scenario are Pringles you shouldn't eat. The attorney, Jack Blakesley, denied that the prank was targeted, even though he admitted to knowing many of the people who worked at the center. The court did not believe him and described the center, which was called Haven of Hope, as his, and again, this is a quote, drop zone. Now you may be asking yourself, what could possibly be the rationale for claiming it wasn't targeted? He knew many of the people inside. It was by the court. He was on his way to court. There's actually a good explanation. Are you ready for what it is? Have you seen this story? I wonder if you'll guess how he can actually demonstrate that it wasn't targeted. Because he was late? That's a good guess. No. It's because he does it all the time. That's right. He's been practicing law since the 70s, and he estimates that he's been throwing shit-filled Pringles cans out of his car window 10 times a year. Yeah, that's right. Blakesley claimed that it was a way to blow off steam, and he enjoyed imagining the look of surprise on people's faces when they found his cans. This is a criminal defense attorney. Of course, what he didn't realize is that there is actually a legal loophole, which is you could just say, I didn't do that. Or, whoops, it was an emergency. Won't happen again, never happened before. But not our guy. Also, now you may be thinking, did he have some kind of mental difficulty that he could use as a rationale? One was offered, but he denied it. It was not his PTSD from Vietnam. Again, you're an attorney. Why not? After he threw the shit-filled can, he returned to court where he was representing a criminal defendant in a capital murder case. But here's the thing, I get it, because once you poop, you just can't stoop. Thank you. Thank you. A rat plague has descended on the coastal Australian town of Corumba, with swarms of rats chewing on electrical wires and wreaking havoc. Said the local mayor, the stench is quite bad, but he added, thanks to coastal winds, it's still livable. A rat pressing a gun further and harder into his back. Speaking of varmints, British lawmaker Jim Shannon faced backlash after saying this during a debate about invasive squirrels.
The very presence of grey squirrels are the Hamas of the squirrel world.
Buddy, no. No. Just don't do it. Not needed. Not an analogy people needed. Why is everybody so mad, said the lawmaker. You haven't even heard which squirrels are the Jews yet. The body of a man who'd been missing since October was found in the ventilation system of Macomb County Community College in Michigan. Authorities discovered the body after being called to investigate a foul odor in the school's performing arts space. Looks like we found the Phantom of the Opera. Stop it. That's so stupid. That's so stupid. Looks like someone needed to vent. A man died. Shame on all of you. The person found in the vents was not affiliated with the college, And authorities said there was no reason to suspect foul play. But I think there's a reason. Because no one knows how this guy ended up in the fucking vents. What do you mean there's no reason to suspect foul play? He's not affiliated with the college. He died in the vents. Of natural causes? What are you talking about? Craziest write-up. I looked everywhere. Everyone's like, he doesn't know. No one knows how he got there, how he even got on the campus, what he was doing in the building, how he got in the vents. Suspicioned? None. It's a sad story, actually. And finally, a report this week in the Washington Post detailed a thriving sexual kink known as political humiliation, described as getting sexually aroused by having your politics ridiculed, typically by someone from the other side. That's crazy, said an area podcast host. Why would anybody be interested in that? Oh, you want Medicare for all? Bet you want it real bad. Beg for it. Tell me that healthcare is a human right. You liberal freak.